We are going to kick the fear of abandonment's butt. We are going to kick the fear of abandonment's butt. No more fear of abandonment, you guys. Let's do the work. Let's do the work to help our relationships. I know you're tired of cycling through terrible relationships. And guess what? It's nobody else's fault but our own. And once we can figure that out, we will finally be able to receive the love that we actually deserve. The love that I know that you want, that you wish for, that you pray for. It's possible. And the way that we do that is we stop the fear of abandonment. And how do we stop the fear of abandonment? We stop fueling it.
Welcome to the MoodMe channel. MoodMe is a new app that allows couples to share their moods, emotions, and desires. MoodMe. There's a mood for that.
Hi there, Moodlings. I'm Dr. Nicole Lunan, the CEO and co-founder of MoodMe and a specialist in emotional intelligence and mindfulness. So guess what? I am so proud of you because you made it to video number 3 in the series of fear of abandonment. If you haven't watched the first 2, cycle back as I give a deep explanation of the fear of abandonment and how it plays into a cycle that has the ability to tear apart relationships. I have broken down the coaching tips and strategies into mini lectures that include journaling exercises, chances for deep reflection, worksheets, and affirmations. If you want to stop the fear of abandonment from interrupting your relationships, you're in the right place. Please do these mini lessons at your own pace. Everyone talks about doing the work on ourselves, and here is your chance to do that. Again, this is all brought to you by MoodMe. As you know, the fear of abandonment infers that in the past you could have been physically or emotionally left by a loved one. And it was then that you taught that the world wasn't a safe place for an open heart because at any moment the people you love could vanish. Now you feel anxious or fearful to get close to others, and the trauma you experience plays in loops when you open your heart and acts as a form of self-sabotage that pushes other people away. And all of this plays into a cyclic, self-fulfilling prophecy. There are 2 mindsets that the fear of abandonment shadow loves to work with. These mindsets and the fear of abandonment shadow are best friends, and they feed off each other. After much research, I discovered that if you can shift these thought patterns, you will have a huge advantage when facing down the fear of abandonment. So what self-limiting beliefs do we need to let go of to shatter the fear of abandonment? Number 1, the victim mindset. And number 2, the helpless child. A victim mentality means that we overly identify with the status of being a victim and become dependent upon self-pity. Bad things happen to us in life, things that are out of our control, like an assault or a crime, that in which would make us a victim. We are a victim of the circumstance or the event that happened. There was nothing we could have done to stop these particular events from happening, and it is perfectly normal to feel helpless and engage in self-pity. But when this helplessness becomes our constant story that we tell ourselves over and over and over again, we are in trouble. When we don't move on from the trauma and instead use it as a defense mechanism or a coping strategy, it inhibits our ability to grow and take responsibility for our life and our actions. It's nothing to be sad or ashamed about, as it's a strategy that we learn from childhood to help self-soothe. When we tripped and fell after running away from our parents, we cried to gain love, attention, and support. And then we really were helpless children. We were at the mercy of our parents' choices. We didn't get much of a say of who was in our lives, how we were treated, what to eat, and what activities we wanted to partake in. So it's safe to say and accept that at one point, we were all helpless children. But the question is, are you still one now? Are you still, in a way, crying to gain love, attention, and support? Is the helpless child leading your relationships? Let's dive deeper into the helpless child archetype to see if any of this sounds familiar to you. The helpless child is scared to speak, to stand up for themselves. The helpless child goes along with situations that are uncomfortable and acts out instead of setting boundaries. The helpless child has not established self-esteem or self-worth and therefore accepts less than what they deserve. The helpless child doesn't understand their own internal strength and clings to others to love and support and take care of them. The helpless child doesn't take responsibility for their actions, thus blaming their caretakers for unmet needs and expectations. The helpless child feels trapped and doesn't believe in their ability to create and obtain resources. Leading with the helpless child and the victim mentality is popular, and here's why. Well, it makes it easier for us not to take responsibility for the choices in our lives, to blame others to protect our ego, which can be fragile. We can complain more, and through complaining, we receive attention and sympathy from others. It makes us feel innocent, an angel, like we can't do any wrong. We can lead with the helpless child to manipulate, guilt, and control others. By leading with the helpless child, we can avoid feeling the yucky feelings that make us feel bad about ourselves. Now let's talk about the negatives of trapping yourself in helpless child mode in victimhood. Number 1, you'll keep attracting the same negative patterns over and over again and complaining to those close to you about why this is happening. Number 2, you'll stop yourself from healing deep trauma and experience this pain continuously on a daily basis. Number 3, the people in your life will become fatigued from always being the bad person and taking the blame while you take zero responsibility. Number 4, people can only be manipulated and controlled for so long, and once they awaken to these tactics, they will eliminate you from your life completely. Number 5, if we truly loved the people in our lives, we wouldn't attempt to control them in this way. By keeping track of all of the bad things that have happened to you or that another has done to you, aka a rap sheet, and continuously focusing on it and bringing it up in conversations, we are trapping ourselves in a victim narrative. And this victim narrative, this helpless child archetype, feeds the fear of abandonment. Due to leading with the helpless child, we may expect others to become a stability point, to be in charge of our happiness and well-being. We place them in the position of the caretaker, like they are our parents. We place all of these expectations and pressure to this person to be the ultimate caretaker. And when they fail to meet our high expectations, we react like children. We throw tantrums, we sabotage, we push people away. We are disappointed all over again. This is why we recreate the same patterns from childhood. We are subconsciously looking for a new parent to heal our childhood trauma instead of looking for healing within. The answers to our problems do not lie without. They lie within. How is the fear of abandonment and helpless child interwoven? The fear of abandonment infers that we don't want to be left alone because we are afraid to ultimately take care of ourselves, because we still see ourselves as a helpless child. We're afraid to be in charge of our well-being and happiness because if things were to go wrong, there would be nobody else to look for support and sympathy. Because we haven't learned to generate the validation, self-care, and support towards ourselves. The helpless child says, I fear others leaving me because I am ultimately afraid of taking care of myself. At the end of the day, this has nothing to do with others leaving you and everything to do with you being afraid to support, nurture, and love yourself. So how do we stop the fear of abandonment? We begin by reframing our lives in the situations and conflicts in our lives by solely focusing on ourselves and our actions. By not viewing ourselves as victims or helpless children, but as strong, independent people who make choices, whether consciously or unconsciously. By turning our lens inwards, we will reclaim our power and be less afraid of others to leave because we will ultimately trust our ability to thrive and stand on our own. Action steps to healing the fear of abandonment include the letting go of the helpless child archetype and releasing the victim narrative, thus placing ourselves in power and control of our own lives. We must begin to take ownership of our thoughts, actions, and behaviors. We must stop treating our partners like they're our parents. You are the only one that can reparent, nurture, and love your inner child. It is your responsibility and nobody else's. We must place the responsibility of love, trust, and care back onto ourselves. Once we can self-love, self-soothe, self-validate, we will be less fearful of losing others because we have succeeded of building a relationship with ourselves, and we do not depend on others to fill a void or give us things that we cannot give ourselves. Learn to become aware of when the helpless child archetype is becoming activated. You gotta follow the whining, complaining, and the blaming. If you're whining, complaining, and blaming a lot, it's probably that your helpless child is being activated and you're starting to come into a victim mentality. Also, watch for the refusal to take responsibility for a conflict. By letting go of the helpless child archetype and the victim mindset and taking ownership of our well-being and happiness, we can stop ourselves from being afraid of others abandoning us because we will already have all of our needs met on our own. And another's love will be in addition to the love and the validation that we discovered in ourselves. By learning how to reparent our inner child, we take the pressure off our partners to be the parent that we never had and instead provide ourselves with the healing, nurturing, and care that we've always desired. Remember, all of the power lies within, not without. Thank you for watching the first video of the coaching tips and strategies on how to heal the fear of abandonment cycle. Now, I know we went through thick content in this video and a lot of food for thought, but don't you worry. In the next video, we're going to be breaking down all of this good information into journaling activities and exercises that allows you to transform yourself from a victim to somebody who claims their power, from a helpless child to a warrior. So stay tuned. Also, if you like our video content, please hit that subscribe button.